By the time he dog sat down to share his recollections, he was around 70 years old, a man whose life had crossed trails with Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, and many more whose names would be etched into the harsh story of the plains. His words weren't offered lightly. They carried the slow gravity of memory tested by time. He dog began by explaining that before the summer of 1876, he and his band of Oglala Sioux had already endured years of pressure. They'd wintered on the Tongue River, near the Platte, hoping to avoid the reach of soldiers and settlers. But trouble wasn't far behind. That March, Crook, known to them as 3 Stars, marched against a Cheyenne camp under Little Wolf. He dog and a handful of Sioux had joined their Cheyenne allies there. The fight that followed, often called the Battle of the Rosebud, left its mark. He dog lost 7 horses, a loss that stung deeply for a plains warrior. The next night, they camped along Lodgepole Creek and sent men back to reclaim what they could. A few horses were recovered. A small comfort. He spoke of the lone teepee they'd come across, a solemn sign marking the grave of a Sans Arc warrior, shot through the bowels in Crook's attack. Some called him Old She-Bear, a brother of Turning Bear. These details mattered to He Dog, each name and kinship tying the tragedy to living memory. They had hoped to meet Crook again, to finish what had begun. But rumors of Crow scouts, longtime enemies, roaming near their own camps made them pause. Their villages lay far off, scattered and vulnerable. It wasn't fear of Crook alone, but fear for the families left behind, women, children, elders. Crook's retreat signaled his defeat, but it left the Sioux uneasy. 3 days after that fight, the Sioux gathered along the Little Bighorn. They didn't come looking for another battle. They came because they believed Crook had withdrawn and the threat had passed. With their wives and children alongside, they simply wanted to hunt buffalo and live quietly, if only for a while. Yet there were whispers among the Sioux about what happened next. Some argued it was on the 2nd day, others said the 3rd, when 7 Sioux scouts saw a column of dust rising, Custer's column. The scouts did not return to warn the village. Instead, they circled the soldiers and slipped away southeast toward the agencies. Among them were Black Bear and Dirt Kettle, men who understood just how quickly soldiers could descend on a camp. One of them, Fast Horn, managed to get word back only moments before Reno's men appeared. It was a narrow warning, but enough to rouse the camp. He Dog described how, on that morning of June 25, the Oglalas were actually northwest of the Hunkpapas, back from the river itself. They hadn't expected a fight. After Crook's withdrawal, peace had seemed possible again. The Brules, too, were not directly on the Little Bighorn that morning, though more than 20 lodges of them camped nearby under Flying Chaser. In that sprawling village, He Dog recalled, there were Hunkpapas, Minneconjous, Blackfeet, Santees, and even 2 Arapaho warriors who had joined them. Altogether, he estimated there might have been 1,800 lodges spread out across the valley. When Reno's soldiers first appeared, the Hunkpapas moved quickly to intercept, many of them on foot. He Dog himself was slower, still gathering his horse as others rushed to hold the soldiers at bay near a stand of timber. From his vantage on a hill to the west, he saw the warriors organizing, waiting for the signal to charge in unison. Before they could, the soldiers broke from the timber in 2 groups, riding hard upriver, pursued by Sioux warriors who killed some of the scouts trailing the retreat. Seeing Benteen's column approaching, the warriors let Reno's men go and turned their gaze eastward, toward another line of soldiers cresting a hill across the river, Custer's battalion. Custer's column came down toward the Medicine Tail Coulee, crossing the river and pausing on a rise. To He Dog, it looked as though Custer aimed to swing around and strike the lower end of the camp. 5 soldiers were seen killed near the cut bank opposite the village, perhaps those who led the column and met warriors coming upstream. At that moment, the main camp was largely deserted, as warriors had ridden out to confront the soldiers. Only a handful of Sioux remained on the east side of the river to trade shots with the advancing troops. He Dog noted there wasn't heavy fighting down by the river itself. Just scattered firing, without organized volleys. As the soldiers pressed forward, the Sioux and Cheyenne encircled them, herding them away from the river and up toward higher ground. Fighting began near the area known as Finley Ridge and rolled along toward Keogh's position. Crazy Horse, leading a fierce charge, smashed through Custer's men, splitting them into fragments. Some tried to flee south, others dismounted and took cover in gullies. Horses bolted, men fell. Dog was clear, the soldiers never charged the Indians, they were the ones being driven. Nor did they run out of ammunition, plenty was found later on the bodies. The last stand itself, as he remembered, didn't drag on endlessly, it may have lasted no more than an hour. The chaos of those final moments stayed with him. Some mounted soldiers tried to break away toward the south, others, already on foot, scrambled for shelter in a deep wash. 28 dead were later found there, proof of that last desperate rush. Foley, one soldier, had ridden out alone and, as Dog heard, took his own life. When the firing ended, the Indians walked among the bodies. Cheyennes, who had fought bravely, were among the first there. The grim work of scalping and counting the dead began, but even the most bloodthirsty tired of the slaughter before they reached the heart of Custer's command. In all, Dog believed between 30 and 40 Indians died in the battle, though more were wounded and some later succumbed. He remembered other grim details, the body of Mitch Bouillet, recognized as part Sioux by the warriors. Bustard, a soldier whose body was said to have been found in the village. Tales and rumors mingled with hard memories. After Custer's battalion fell, the Sioux and Cheyenne turned their strength against the soldiers on the bluffs, Reno and Benteen's commands. They penned them in, kept them under fire, and waited. Had reinforcements not arrived under Terry, Dog believed they would have worn those soldiers down in a matter of days. When the fight ended, the tribes gathered their families and moved upriver toward the Big Horn Mountains. At Slim Buttes, the Great Alliance finally splintered. Sitting Bull and his followers turned toward Canada, seeking safety across the border. Dog and others lingered, some joining the fight at Slim Buttes, where tragedy struck the Minneconjou, hunters caught off guard, some killed, others wounded. Dog spoke too of the leadership among his people. Crazy Horse and Big Road, the principal Oglala chiefs. Red Cloud, who had led before but was not present in the Little Bighorn fight. Low Dog, another Oglala. Big Foot among the Minneconjou. The tapestry of leaders, sub-chiefs, and warriors was complex, but to Dog, each played a part in that fateful summer. In the years that followed, Dog surrendered alongside Crazy Horse at Fort Robinson in 1877. He lived long enough to see the world change beyond what any warrior of his youth could have imagined. His telling wasn't one of boasting or triumph. It was measured, deliberate, spoken by a man who'd seen the terrible price of battle. The killing, the scattering of families, the endless flight from soldiers and scouts. He remembered the bravery of friends, the terror of the moment, and the sorrow of what followed. To those who listened, his words offered a view not found in official reports or army maps, a view from the saddle, from the dust of the plains, from a man who had stood among the circle of riders that brought down the long hair and his command. A view shaped by loss as much as victory, by memory as much as pride. That was Dog's story, a warrior's recollection of a day that would echo across history, told with the plain-spoken truth of one who was there, and who carried the weight of it for the rest of his days.